So in this video, I'm going to show you guys how to get rid of grain mites. So as you can see here, these are my mealworms. I have quite a few beetles, and then they laid eggs, and then those eggs hatched in mealworms. Got 2 rows of it, and as you can see, this is outside because they developed grain mites, which is often due to increased moisture. Some grain mites get in, they like the moisture, they breed, blah 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 blah, and then it creates this really fine powder stuff. And then I'm going to show a zoomed in picture so you can actually see the grain mites, and then I'll show you how I'm going to get rid of them. So now that we've taken one container out and we've cleaned it, what next we're going to need to do is get a bowl of warmish water, not freezing cold, not hot. And what we're going to be doing is actually taking these mealworms, just literally dropping them in that water. And these mealworms aren't going to die. They're basically going to be still alive for like probably, I'd say, a day or two. But we're just going to be doing this for maybe 10 minutes, whatever. We're going to be doing, take all of the live things, put it in the water. And then after that, we're going to rinse off everything in there, get all the mites off. And then we're going to put everything in the bare container so that the mites won't have anything to live on. And the moisture will be eliminated since there's no other like oats to keep the moisture in. And then we can actually take this oats, the good parts, and then stick in the oven. That'll kill the mites and the eggs. And then we can reuse the oats as well. Alright, so my mealworm bins have magically turned into mealworm soup. As you can see, a lot of them are at the bottom, some of them are at the top, whatnot. Basically, stir them all up. I also might mention that almost all of these mealworms will be fine after this. They've been sitting for 10-15 minutes, whatever. But I also do ant keeping, and the ants that have drowned in my pool actually come back to life up to a day later. So they can be waterlogged and it's going to be fine. So we're going to take this water, go into the bathroom or wherever you have a convenient sink, take a strainer, and we are literally going to clean these mealworms. So I'm going to put everyone in here, strain them all, and that will ensure that all the mites are off and you will literally have mite-free mealworms. And then we're going to put them in the container again. I'm going to wash this with a hose too. I also might mention that all of the grain stuff that was in here, I now put in here. So these still have grain mites. Keep this outside, keep this wherever. I'm just going to because I couldn't get all the tiny babies, so I'm going to let them grow in here. And periodically, I'm going to wash these guys and put them in this bigger one. So wash this big thing with the hose because there might be a mite right here, whatever. And then also take these into the sink and wash them out with a strainer just so you can be sure that there are no mites on these guys. And then once you get no mites, put them back in the container with no oats, just so you can be sure that no mites will lay eggs or whatever. We're going to keep it no oats for a little while so that we can make sure that it's just mite free in there. And we're going to keep it dry for a little while, and then just make sure to feed them like vegetables and stuff so they can get the water. After taking them out of the water, you might notice that they might not be crawling as much, but they will soon wake up. So here's them a day after. You can see that they're quite active. Be sure to feed them some lettuce or some other greens. Nearly all of the original mealworms and beetles are completely fine, so they're all moving around and they're not drowned. Really, the only ones that didn't survive were the beetles that accidentally flipped over and they couldn't right themselves, and I didn't get a chance to look at them. You'll also want to remove the leaves or the other vegetables after a day or so to prevent the environment from getting too moist and grain mites coming back. So now that we have mealworms without mites, and this grain has mites in it, what we're going to do is we're going to recycle this grain and take only the grain out. Try not to get the baby mealworms because they might still be in here. Take the grain out, put it in a glass container, and we're going to microwave the heck out of it to kill all of the mites. And then we should be able to reuse this grain so we don't have to buy more. I mean, you can buy more if you want, just make sure to also microwave it because there might be grain mite eggs in it. So here's just a little 2-week update video, and as you can see, the mealworms are doing great, and I only have a thin layer of substrate here, which I'm using oats, and everything is looking fine. Only a couple mealworms have died since I made the mealworm soup, and everything else looks pretty much good. Similar story with beetles, that most of them are doing fine. 1 or 2 of them have died, but I'm pretty sure that's just because they flipped upside down and they couldn't reorient themselves. But as you can see, when I clear the substrate away, there's not really much dust, and usually the dust indicates that there's grain mites. There's a couple little bits of dust here, but nothing compared to what it used to be. So I'm going to be showing you guys a macro vid now of the mealworms. And here's a little mealworm there. We can see the oats here, and I'm going to just be zooming in and looking around for some grain mites, and pretty much I don't see any right now. I'm trying to zoom in here and see the little grains. I sped it up here, and I didn't really see any in the mealworm thing. So now I'm going to be looking at the beetles, and pretty much the same story. So I'm looking around, I'm just clearing out the substrate with my finger, and all this dust here is like actual dust. I really don't see any grain mites, so I think that this is pretty much a success here, and we're able to get rid of the grain mites. Just make sure to keep everything dry, so do minimal substrate. And thank you guys for watching. I hope if you guys have grain mites, you can clear it up. It's a pretty easy process. Just make sure that you clear everything out and get rid of the grain mites, and then keep everything dry, and that should keep them from coming back.